We're a decorated team of athletes.
And their coach.
And we are here to have a meaningful conversations around high performance, disability, and the power of culture.
We're here to share our journeys as elite athletes,
to inspire, motivate, and teach you
to build strong, diverse, and inclusive cultures
that break barriers, embrace resilience, and unlock potential.
In sports,
business,
and life.
Through stories and impactful discussions,
you're going to learn how to create a world where diverse perspectives fuel high performance,
inclusion drives innovation, and strong cultures power individuals to thrive.
So pull up a chair
and join us for a meal,
a drink, and one hell of a good time
as we discuss high performance.
You can't say that.
You never let us have any fun.
Hey guys, should we get started?
Sure. Why not?
Welcome to
Welcome
welcome
to
the Resident Table.
All right. Welcome back to the Resident Table. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Shenanigans. I think this one we're going to start off with shenanigans because we're going to talk about, the dynamic of our team that was really great was how much fun we had, to the point where people from other countries on different teams would tell us, "Man, I wish I was on Team USA," and that's how we got Mo.
I didn't see that coming.
He's so predictable most of the time. That was
good. Let's go.
Let's go.
But seriously, keeping it light and, like we talked about in other episodes, enjoying the process is what made this team really good. And the stories that we've shared in between taping that we probably should have taped are some of our special moments that, like when it was time to train, we trained super hard, but when it was over, we made light of the parts that sucked, and being in that suck with other people, as I learned in the military, is like what really bonds you, what really bonds you. And we've talked about in episodes where it helps build trust, when you're in the suck together and you can laugh about it, that type 2, type 3 kind of fun, that's way more important than, getting to the games, getting a gold medal, and looking back on your experience and hating it and being like, man, I just wasted 4 years of my life for this medal that at the end of the day, it's just a trinket. And I think for all of us, I think I'm the only person at the table that has not made a games that they wanted to go to. And so, I can speak to crushing defeat, but I can look back at my time on the team and be like, man, it's still some of the best years of my life. Like, it didn't end the way that I thought it would, but I made some of the best friends, had some of the best times, and that to me is more important than if I'd gone to the games and had hated all those experiences. So, yeah.
You definitely bring... Oh, gosh, dare I even compliment you? Oh.
It's painful.
I know it's painful.
This is the first time that Howie is kind of
This might be the
serious.
first time you've ever had
I
to
know.
give Howie a compliment.
But you like, everyone's like, oh, Howie's coming, or, oh, it's not the same without Howie.
8 years later.
You bring you definitely bring a dynamic that is fun. Like, I've never made fun of someone so much, or have it reciprocated and just
excuse me.
taking it. Like, yeah, right. So you just add this level of I don't know. I don't even know, fun. Yeah. Oh God, that was such a compliment.
I know, right?
Well, I mean, just...
Do you want to tell him he's good looking while you're at
No.
it?
No, he's ugly.
Well, let's just think of it this way. I mean, what was it? At the beginning of 2020, Kendall was getting back from a winter training camp or something like that. And it was her first time back at the training center for a while. And, Howie just rolls out into the middle of the dining hall and is like, "Hey, everybody, it's Kendall Gretsch, 2-time Paralympic gold medalist." And I don't think she sat with us for a year.
You know what? Again, it was one of those things that you think through, but it has to happen organically. But all of the shared experiences that we had outside of sport, and I think that started to bond you guys so much closer, and it became so much more real than if you just showed up. The go-karting that we would do, the ski trips that we would do, the meal at your house with your family, the meals that we would go out to, all of those shared experiences outside of our workplace really started to create this cohesive unit, and realizing that, hey, if we're going to get through this, we're going to get through this together, but we've got to have some compartmentalization. Like, there has to be a time where we're not just focused on doing these crazy hard workouts and this, that, or the other. And I think that's why you guys are all so close and remain so close to this day.
And I think it's also why we're all still doing it. You know, I feel like there's so much longevity on this team. And I think that's twofold. I think one, you know, we are having that compartmentalization and having that fun along the way so that it doesn't feel like work in the way that it could if we were taking things a little bit more seriously. But then I think there's also the part where, like, we don't really want to leave because it is so fun.
Yeah.
You know, like, how many of us here have like contemplated retirement, but then you're like, oh, but then
A lot.
A lot.
Wait, I think I just heard Melissa say she's in for LA 20.
Maybe. Never say never.
Mo retired after Rio, so
Yes.
here we are.
Here you are, 10 years later.
I'm gonna end up with
Almost.
the divorce.
You know where I feel like some of that bonding happened? When they were doing a mass cleaning of the pool at the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center. And so we got forced over to Air Force and had to do our swims there. And so Howie decided that since we had to be driving 30 minutes every day,
Yeah.
he was just going to buy a minivan.
Baller. Yeah, I remember that.
I know, me and Mo spent like 9 hours to get like $5,000 savings on that van. We talked him down though.
Those van rides, I feel like that was where a lot of that, you know, real team
What's
bonding
that
really happened.
podcast that we were listening to?
Oh my God.
Cereal.
Oh, the one about the food?
Yeah, cereal. Yeah,
That's
just literally.
not food.
Mo was just like, what are we listening to? Just like about Golden Grams.
There's a whole podcast.
Melissa, this was
about
before
cereal.
this was before our time.
Okay.
Yeah, this was first year.
Okay.
This was OG when we got the first team van. But I think, you know, that talking about like no one wants to leave, like throughout the years from the first year until the last year I was there, and even when I visited after I left the training center, like we're at the resident table until we shut down the cafeteria. I mean, the lights are turning off and they're finally sending us out, and you get like FOMO if you're not at that table because you're not
So
going to be in
true.
the inn. Same thing if we're
Yeah.
going to go get ice cream, like you're going to miss out. And so it's like, oh man, I need to make sure I know what we're going to joke about tomorrow on the pool deck.
I had massive FOMO like every night because I wasn't there for dinner.
That'll teach you to have a family that loves you.
I know. I had to go home to my family.
Should have been single and hated.
Exactly.
Like winning.
Like, you know, on it. Look, this is kind of funny to think about now, but a lot of our team bonding actually came about because of COVID. Because the training center got shut down. Like, Howie and I are trapped there on campus. Kendall and Haley, you guys were like, we're peacing out. Bye. We're gonna move off campus. Nah, just kidding there. But
we
you guys,
did.
but you guys moved off. But you guys moved off campus, and then all of a sudden we're like, but wait, I want to see my friends. How do we figure out to see my friends? And Howie and I are looking at each other, and Howie's like, you need to go try on bike helmets.
You had to write down, like, tell them why you were leaving the training center, and they'd give you like 40 minutes, and we're like, we're going to the. We need bike equipment.
Yeah.
Kyle needs bike shoes.
Yeah.
And then boom, we're over there doing a barbecue.
Like throwing burgers on the grill. Right. Try it on bike helmets.
We were probably socially distanced. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
And then we did Colorado
over
for COVID, where we were going to wear masks the whole time in the RV and sit 6 feet apart. That were
Y'all didn't wear masks?
we did wear masks, and we were 6 feet apart at all times.
At all times.
And
At all times.
It was
Yes,
very COVID complacent.
yes.
But I think like to bring it back, like it is important that we have those moments because of the hard times that we face at this level of competition. Like you're not always going to win. You're going to have failures, and the only way to survive those is through dark humor and tough love. Like if it wasn't for tough love on this team, there'd be no love, because that's what kind of drives you forward and bonds you. And then when you do have a tough race in Montreal and the emotions are getting high, I can dig into you a little bit and be like, hey, no, suck it up. You're going to be fine, because I know like we've learned about each other. We know where we can push and when we can have to hold back.
You
a little
understood the
bit.
boundaries.
Yeah,
yeah.
like you don't learn that if you don't have shared experiences outside of the sport, I think.
And you also start to realize, like, Howie is doing this not because he hates me. He's actually doing this because he loves me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
know?
would say if you're not getting picked on this team,
But
I
here
want
was
to find
so-
a different team.
It's so apparent with disabilities also, right?
Yeah.
So like even when I was recovering at Walter Reed, I'm above the knee amputee, and you start calling the below the knee amputee is like you just said, Howie, like it's like a paper cut. It's no big deal. Like we would like compare an arm amputee. I would be like, well, I can do this. She's like, well, I can do this. Like what one's worse? You know, so it's like the humor starts. So I think coming into a team with someone, you know, spinal cord injuries, amputations, visually impaired, like you just make fun of each other, and that's what bonds you.
But I think the best was having those jokes that we do have here in the paraspace, but then expanding it to our friends who are Olympic athletes.
How uncomfortable can you make somebody?
Yes. Yes.
I think I'm not saying I'm the king of making people feel uncomfortable.
You're pretty good.
I might be the king, and I have so much fun, especially with like new people that have never been around people with disabilities, because you know you start throwing out the C word, everyone gets uncomfortable, and you're like,
What's C word?
What's this?
I know,
What's a
right?
C word? What's a C word?
Cripple. Yeah,
You can't say that.
Yeah, we can say that.
How's
So-
Remember the time that someone from the USAT emailed you and asked if you wanted running shoes?
Oh,
Yeah.
Talk about making people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and response emails just like, you know, like I think it's unbelievably, you know, just rude that you would reach out to me, a person that's in a wheelchair and can't run, you know, can't walk. And you're asking me about running shoes, and I just go on, and then I give like 5 spaces so they can't see the bottom of the email until they scroll down, and then it's like I'm just fucking with you.
That poor intern.
I know. Next time I see him, he's like, I was so scared.
Well, you come into, so you've been to my house in Colorado Springs a few times, and my group of friends have taken a liking to you. And there was one time.
She's not happy with
No,
that.
I'm not. I was like, is Howie coming? I'm like, shut up. Howie, I don't know if Howie's coming. But I think someone owed you like $10 and they helped you get out to your car, and then he asked for the money and he came back inside and he's like, I can't believe I just asked a guy in a wheelchair for $10. And I'm like, that's like, who cares? But like the uncomfortableness is just,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
But you guys didn't like get along at first, did you?
I thought you did.
Oh, no, I hated him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. You hated
Yeah,
him.
Howie
But
and
then you
Haley are
became-
mortal enemies. Or
Yeah, we still are. I've put Haley down as my like what do you call it?
Emergency contact.
Emergency contact, and it's like, you know, like relationship, and I was an arch nemesis or something like that. You know, like
He'll write call anytime.
yeah, put her home
preferably
number.
between like midnight and 4 a.m.
But what changed? Because now you guys are
So we met early on. I think, you know, through Dare to Try in Chicago. I think while I was still in rehab, you know, there was like a thing at a running place where they were doing the elite team. And I'd never done a race, and I somehow got invited on to Dare to Try's elite team. I'm like, Carrie, I've never raced ever at all.
We needed people.
I know. And they're just like, we're trying to fill a men's wheelchair spot. Like,
You're the token.
Token athlete.
men's wheelchair
we got to
athlete.
have one dude in a chair. But me and Haley just didn't. I think there was like an age gap, and plus they had like their circle, and I was definitely not in it yet. And so
Are you calling me clicky?
Oh, this is the
you British?
paraspace is very clicky. But then when I moved to the training center, you know, like I didn't really know anyone, and me and Haley had maybe said hi to each other in, you know, 5 years, like 5 times, and then we just started getting coffees together and chatting, and just next thing you know, we're just hanging out all the time, and through bonding in the team room and around the resident table is really what it was. It was just putting that time in to get to know each other. And then I felt like you start to feel responsible for each other and making sure I like to be the ultimate hype man for everyone too. That's why I'm wearing like a Kendall tank top right now that says hydrate like a champion, because Kendall is the beast of all of us with the most gold. She can't even count her gold medals. She's like,
Yeah.
I think I have 3 or 4. She doesn't know. And I'm like, must be rough. You know? Like,
How much you have?
I don't even. I have. Wait, are you talking?
I feel like
Wait,
I can just feel. I can feel the eye
Wait,
roll.
did you say how many medals do I have? Are you talking about war medals? Oh, I got war medals.
Nice catch.
Hey, but do you
Nice
have
save.
both?
No, I don't have both yet, but we're working on it. It's like a step process.
It is,
I'm
agreed.
working my way up.
I think there's no other, like, I think coming into like the pool deck or the resident table, like I would just come in and confidently tell you guys like things that I would never like just come into a group of 7 people and just announce.
Like what?
Oh, I mean, well, we had like our saying where you just like roll in, and when you have to be like, guys, I have a confession, and then it's just the most ludicrous bullshit you've ever heard in your life.
Right.
What's an example?
Yeah, give us an example.
Give us an
Melissa.
example,
I'm
Melissa.
curious.
There's so
There's a
many.
lot of, there's so many of them.
We're all
I thought
thinking
we were
of
going straight to
one.
the 4th of July,
Okay. Yeah,
America's
I did.
birthday.
The cat. What is it? The cat or dog?
You
Dog.
guys,
Dog?
so I
Okay.
walked in, so I had broken my back a few days earlier, and I hadn't been to swim practice yet. So I hobble in, like completely swollen, I can hardly walk. But in the meantime, I'd happened to accidentally, a dog ran in front of my car, and it was 6 years old. And I came into the pool deck, hobbled in, and I said, guys, I hit a dog. And I never would have said that in any other group. And I did not know that that was going to become the joke of the decade about killing a dog. It died.
That just became one of the Melissa,
But
many
it was
Melissa
6 years
isms.
old.
Yeah.
That
It was 6, but I would
You
get
justified it somehow.
The point is
it
that
was
I would
6.
never come into
6.
a group and
6.
feel comfortable like saying that. But for some reason, for you guys, I did. And I think that's just the trust or the team part of it, or just that we're going to have fun with it, which maybe I needed that humor to help me like cope with it,
Yeah,
knowing
fair.
that I was going to get it, you know?
Well, and Melissa, you kind of had like, at least early on, when in the team, you kind of had this, this serious mom vibe.
Really?
Kind of like you
do
were
not call her a
SMV.
housewife.
Yeah, no, you weren't.
Don't
You
do
weren't.
it.
You weren't the
Don't
housewife.
do it.
No. But like, you were kind of like it
I'm
was
not a
almost
housewife.
Like, it was almost like it was almost like team mom and like.
But I am. I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, and but then like we do our white elephant gift
This is going to
exchange.
become a roast,
Yeah, but this
Melissa.
is okay. Wait, before we start this story, Kyle, just remember these situations are how we bonded as a team. You have to learn
Exactly.
about
It
your
is.
friends' boundaries and
Yeah.
sometimes their
Yeah.
disabilities. And
Yeah.
and Melissa, as such a good person that, like you, Kyle, she doesn't see disabilities.
No,
don't.
she doesn't. She doesn't see
So-
disabilities at all.
So tell the Christmas story, Kyle.
So we Derek has this great idea. Let's all do a white elephant gift exchange amongst the team, and Howie and Haley went shopping together, and they picked out gifts. I went into my closet and like pulled out whatever I could find that I didn't want and threw it into a bag. And Melissa, goes out and buys a raunchy coloring book.
Was it raunchy?
It was raunchy.
It was
it?
very
Yeah, it was.
raunchy.
I think it was
It was
a
it was an
Walmart
it was an
coloring book.
adult coloring book. She goes all out, gets colored pencils, and she wraps it up all nice and all that, and comes to the and as a white elephant, you throw it in the middle of the table and you just randomly reach in, grab something. Who grabs the coloring book? I reach in, I grab and open it up. Thanks, Melissa.
Kyle, you can help. You never even tried.
I did not.
What if you could? Well, you would never. You don't even know.
Yeah,
Could be a really good color.
You're the-
I could be.
Limitations,
I
Kyle.
could be a really good color. I like to color outside the lines,
And that's
so,
appreciated.
I think I did wind up trading the coloring book for a really awesome coffee mug.
A very tactile
a
coffee
very
mug.
tactile
Very
coffee
tactile.
mug.
It was
that-
made of bike chains.
It was made of bike
yeah.
chains. It was really awesome. It was really cool.
I know, thoughtful.
But then but for some reason, this it was about a year later. We're at a camp, and just for some reason throughout the year, it was Melissa. Like you gave Kyle a coloring book for Christmas. It was like,
Which
you didn't give
I
it to me.
didn't.
You didn't give it to me.
But
And then
it's just tacked on to everything else.
And then we're at a you and I get stuck on a relay team together, or get put on a relay team together for training and swim racing or whatever, and you forgot to tell me to go, and it
I don't
eventually
see. I think you can see.
it eventually turned into this. Oh, Melissa just hates blind people, whereas it really was just she hates Kyle.
Well,
That's okay.
we know that she hated blind people, and she also tried to kill your dog. So we know she hates dogs.
what? I'm not your dog.
Yeah,
You
remember
slammed-
when you
you
slammed its
slammed
door
my-
and it's bled out
Oh
all
God,
over
yes.
Melissa's just Melissa acts all nice, but she's running around wreaking havoc on people's lives.
I accidentally caught Kyle's service dog's tail in a door. And I'm like, Kyle, but he's fine. There's blood everywhere. He's wagging his tail. Blood is like flying everywhere. And I'm like, Kyle, it's fine.
But we're laughing about but we fought, but we found these boundaries and we trusted each other, and you know, and we are able to laugh about all of this, and you know, and it turned into things where you started leaning into it.
Oh, you have
and
to.
It was amazing. And like, you know, all of a sudden you start, you know, you were very proper early on. And then all of a sudden, you start
broke me.
And then all of a sudden, four-letter words start flying, and we're like, wait,
you know
what? Huh?
You know what, Melissa? You can say that I break people, but we could talk about Yokohama.
Okay, we don't have to continue this conversation.
And
I think the idea is that it's like you have to lean into it. It's like it's like fun. That's like part of it, right?
And I think too, like those first couple years of the resident team and figuring things out and learning, and there was like some real stress, like some very significant stress. And I think one of the things that I began to really appreciate is like we needed. I'm going to go into Melissa flattery mode towards Hallie real quick of like, we needed Howie. Like we needed you on the team to help us understand when it was time to laugh and joke a little bit and not take ourselves quite so seriously, because we were still figuring out our direction and our purpose. And
that was your role.
That was no.
I've embraced that role since my military days.
In fairness,
balance.
You know, there were times where I would have to give reports to my direct reports, and like you don't understand how he serves a role that is so crucial to our team that we have to keep him. We absolutely have to keep him, and give him the chance that he deserves. And so I think like having that person in a team is important. Now there's a time and a place to crack jokes and stuff, and I think we all figured out that situational awareness. But it was so important, especially early on, to kind of bring a little candor and bring a little lightheartedness to something that felt so serious.
And it's one of the reasons that, like I said, people from other teams notice. They notice how much fun we're having while we collect up all the medals. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're the team that's joking around so much that we are not bringing home medals at every race. Instead, we're the team, even outside the resident team, that we bring in the U.S. athletes, and we become this huge force of fun and just wrecking house on the medal count. Yeah. So they can't say anything. They can't be like, oh, they're always messing around. Yeah. Right. And it's like, no, we're enjoying this. Like, we're enjoying every bit of this, from winning to losing and in between. Like, we're enjoying it, you know, and it makes us better athletes, better people.
And Derek, you did such a good job, Derek, of I guess recognizing that each one of us had kind of like a place on the team, and recognizing the power of all of us together, and knowing that, okay, you know, like, we need this person on the team because they do this, or like, I feel like each one of us had like a specific like role that we served almost without necessarily knowing that we were doing it.
I don't know how many times, you know, I roll into the, you know, roll into the, you know, the try room, and Kendall's there ready to make anybody a coffee. Like, you know, team barista, like clutch. Everyone has that role, and everyone has, you know, their space, and like humor, you know, knowing when to live, laugh, and, you know, love each other it's a real thing. And like when it's time to get serious, when it's time to get focused, we're able to, any one of us is able to bring that focus. But then any person can just crack something, and it lightens the mood.
Yeah, I think we've all seen each other at pretty low points, and it's nice that we can, you know, how you can give that person a little bit of shit that will lift them up. I mean, honestly, like it'll lift them up to where they can be like, okay, kind of shake off whatever they're going through, whether it's, from training to losing at races or not performing the way you want to, or having a struggle, at home, whatever it is, like we kind of pick up on it, and then you can grab that person and just kind of be like, bring up a story about Melissa, and the next thing you know, we're laughing, and it kind of changes the mood and then sets up everyone for a little bit better training the next time. It's hard to go into a training when you're miserable. Yeah. So it's nice when you're on the pool deck coming in, sucking, and especially me, Kyle said he was the worst swimmer, but I think we all know who it was. And so like every swim
I'm pretty sure you were faster than me when we first started.
Every swim was murder for me though. And so it was nice to like have that time on the pool deck before it started to like bring it down a little bit and then be like, all right, like, let's get this on.
Well, and then also, I mean, I feel like probably 30% of the time I left the pool angry and upset with myself for how my workout went. And, sometimes, we always went straight from the pool to breakfast.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I would carry some of that anger with me. But within 10 minutes, it was gone because, the mood at the table always was just so jovial and so friendly. And, it was hard to be mad for too long when you were around this group.
Yeah. The one time that I can very specifically point to was when it was during, I think it was one of the times we did our 16 by 100s, and Derek gave us all paces to try and hit, and only one of us hit any of the paces or got anywhere close. Everyone else was like 5 to 10 or even 15 seconds off. And afterwards, he gathers us all, on the deck, and he was visibly frustrated, and he was like, you got to work hard, you got to want it, like it doesn't matter, you got to dig it, you got to dig in, you got to just figure out a way to do it. And then he turns around, points to Kendall, and our one glimmer of hope here today.
And you would put like 50 circles around her times, I think. Yeah. She's the only one hitting them.
And we all it was like the one time, Derek, where we're all like, fuck, Derek is like lighting into us. But we pulled something out of that, and Kendall became our glimmer of hope.
She is still the glimmer of hope.
And she is still, to this day, she is our glimmer of hope.
Were there
How do you feel about that, Kendall?
Were there times, Derek, on the inside?
We didn't tell Kyle that Kendall didn't come to this
Oh,
episode.
yeah, she's not here.
Right.
That's one of our.
We thought he could see.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's one of our.
We don't see disabilities.
Yeah, that's one of our pranks. Sorry, Kyle.
All good.
Derek,
All
were there
good.
times when you wanted, because you're right, there was in the number of years that we've worked together, there's count on one hand the amount of times you've gotten mad or angry or upset at what we do. Are there times on the inside that you were just like, oh man, you're so mad, but you control it?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And why not? Why not project that more?
Because I don't think it would have done any good. There were frustrations, and those are things that I had to learn too about what's the right composition of a team. And there are times where a team has to make changes and ensure that the composition of the team, the people that are on it, are aligned and working towards the same common goal, and also helping each other. Like I hear you guys tell these stories and talk about it, and that's how an individual sport became such an effective team, is because everything that you guys were doing outside of just the training. Like the training's almost the easy part. And yeah, there were times that I would certainly get frustrated, and I think it challenged me a lot as to how we would have those conversations and how we could have them. And I'm sure there were times you guys got frustrated at me, and there were times what is going to be the most effective way? And yelling and screaming was not going to be effective for any one of you. And I think you guys learned it, over time. The quieter I started to talk, kind of the more serious it got and the more intense it was. And so I think, it comes back to communication, and I'm just generally not a yeller or a screamer. I mean, I would yell, I think the thing I would yell at you guys is, who are you? Right? In those hard workouts, I'd be yelling, who are you? Who are you? And that was intended to drive you in a sense of what you're doing now when you want to quit, when no one else is paying attention, when it's as hard as it's going to get, like how you respond to that is how you're going to respond to it in racing when I can't do anything for you. So that's how I kind of projected. And if I had a frustration, I usually tried to think about maybe your perspective, where you guys were, or what I might not be communicating as effectively as I can. A lot of deep breaths.
But it did make it more effective when you did like get mad or like, I mean, then we were all like, oh man, like we really need
He's
to
actually
step it
serious.
up. Yeah. I also think going back to like the 16 by 100, so like Kendall did great, but like it's a testament to feeding off of each other. Like, what's the likelihood that, 5 of us are going to have a really crappy workout at the same time? It's because we're like feeding off of each other.
Totally.
Well, and so what happened, and this is where, going back to like previous episodes where, and one of the themes that we talked about is trust. And one of the things that made, I think, us trust Derek even more was that we actually learned later on that there was an issue with the air filtration system at the pool, and everyone that day was struggling to breathe. The air quality was actually really, really poor. And so once Derek found that out, he gathered us all around the table. I think it was the next day or the day after, and was like, guys, I'm sorry for yelling at you. There was actually a valid reason for why you didn't perform, and I did not realize it at the time. And so knowing when to say I was wrong helped build that trust. And so, and that was and I think that's when it became apparent, like, now, it was, we now trusted Derek to tell us when he was wrong. And being able to admit that is a big deal. And I think that's when the glimmer of hope comment that we gave Kendall started. That's when it became the joke, and it became an endearment and something where we could, it was one of our labels for Kendall, but it was also a label saying, Derek, we trust you.
I'm pretty sure, Derek, that my lane in the pool always had an air filtration system. Pretty sure that's what was.
Well, remember when we were swimming at the Air Force Academy, and literally that lane against the wall was
Even Mo was like, I'll take that lane. And then he's like, this lane sucks. I'm like, I know.
If Mo says us,
I think part of coming back to your question, I could never put myself in your position, right? I don't know what it's like to be an amputee and to deal with a socket not fitting or needing to get a new blade or a new run leg. And so I always try to remind myself of that. And you guys were amazing about that. Was never an excuse or a reason not to be able to do something, but it would get in the way at times. It would be something that we had to be honest about. And I had to just listen and understand it from your perspective and try to have some understanding as best I could and empathy there. But I think like there were times where humor helped with that a little bit too. So for me, then Kyle's example with that swim, the only time I ever got frustrated is if I thought someone wasn't giving their best effort on the day. And that was rare. I mean, very, very rare.
I think everyone here with a disability can attest that it's frustrating. Mm-hmm. Like our lives are inevitably and forever frustrating. There's going to be something that is just driving us nuts all the time. And sometimes it builds up to the point where like I can't pick up something flat off the floor very easy. And it'll just set me off where I'm like, I freaking hate everything about this. And then next thing you know, you're around other people, we start joking about it or joking with each other, and it helps you kind of move forward and forget about those frustrations. And if you don't have that humor in your life and that team in your life that can help you find the funniness in this stuff that happens to us, it's hard. It's like really hard. And so I think that's why when people see us and they're like, oh, that's so inspiring that you got your own gas.
You're
it's
at
really,
the grocery store.
Well, it's
you're
really
getting
just
out.
It's really just perspective changing, and And I think that's why I mess with people so much when they're just like, oh my goodness, you do a triathlon with just your arms, and they're just like talking about it like I just cured cancer. And I'm like, no, Kyle, like beat freaking cancer. Like, you know, like I'm just doing a triathlon with my arms. Like, so then I got to mess with them, you know, and so they can learn like, oh, they're just regular people. Like they can joke, and you don't have to treat us with kid gloves, you know? And so the more I mess with people that don't understand it, the more, you know, where I've got, you know, a shotgun shooter stuck where he can't walk because we're about to go get like ice cream, and there's a set of stairs and an elevator. And he's like, I'm going to take the stairs. And I'm like, that's fucked up, man. I can't take the stairs. And then he's like, okay, I'll ride the elevator. And I'm like, oh, you're going to take space up in the elevator when you, from someone else that's probably crippled in a wheelchair and not use the stairs? And he's like, so I should take the stairs? I'm like, oh, you're going to take the stairs now. And he's literally just like stops, and he's like, I don't know what to do right now. And boom, he's broken, but he also understands like you can mess around with it. Like you can treat people just like you would treat anyone else, and you can have fun and enjoyment and just do normal things. We just do them sometimes in a different way, to the point where he was so broken that he's like calling us cripples in front of his dad, and his dad's like, you can't say that. And he's like, they say that word all the time. And even we're like, you can't say that word, bro.
And it's very important, especially in this era where everybody wants to be correct. And so,
PC.
It's good to.
I mean, people ask me like, "What's the word to describe us?" You know, like what? And I'm like, "We're just people." And they're like, "Yeah, but like you're disabled or handicapped." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't even know what word to tell you because you're gonna piss someone off."
Yeah.
And so to the people watching this podcast, I'll just say, we don't know the word. Just treat all of us with respect. You know,
actions mean so much more. I don't care what you call me, just don't park in my spot.
Yeah, right. Like,
Just don't.
Literally don't.
Don't park in my
Use the
spot. And
wheelchair
Don't
bathroom.
call me late for dinner or anything like that. You know.
Don't use the wheelchair bathroom at the airport.
Oh.
I freaking need that bathroom so bad.
One of my favorite stories about Howie, and I'm sure it was very frustrating at the time, and I wasn't even there, but you had this motor on your wheelchair that could help you up a ramp. And you said you were in your room at the training center, and you push this button, and you're just up against a wall, and it's just like hitting you against a wall, and it's like so unfortunate, but it's so funny.
I know, right?
The image in my head of that is just, I wish I was there to see it.
And that's where like it was so frustrating. This stupid motor is like supposed to help get me around, save my arms, so I don't have to push. But it would just turn on. I'd be talking, it would just turn on. Right? Yeah, it was like I wore a wristband, but it would literally. I'd just be talking, and I talk with my. I'm Sicilian. I talk with my hands, and so I'd like snap my wrist just right, and bam, I'm just banging into the resin table at full speed, and everyone's looking at me like, the stuff's tipping over, and everyone's looking at me like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm not doing anything." Like. And so, yeah, that particular instance, I had like 4 cases of like spicy water on my lap that I, commandeered from the cafeteria. And I'm just trying to put it in the fridge. And next thing I know, this thing turns on. It slams me into we got a set of Bowflex weights. It's me and Jamie. And so I'm up on the front wheels of my wheelchair. So I just chucked the cans. And Jamie Brown comes out and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Help." I think I'm going to die.
But it seems like that. Like they're so, and you're right. You alluded to it earlier. Like there are massive frustrations as somebody with a disability, like whether it's the prosthetic or the wheelchair, or you can't see, Kyle. Like
she learned.
But there are daily frustrations, but it's also part of it. Like we've lived with it, we know it, and it doesn't mean it doesn't suck sometimes, but like there's no other choice. Like we don't have a choice.
Well, and that's also where I think just having that shared experience, because I feel like there would be times where I would just latch onto something that I thought was so frustrating and just like, fuck, it's like so not fair that I can do this one thing. And then I'd say that to you guys, Melissa and Mo, and you'd be like, yeah, I know it does. It really sucks. And I would get that validation, and I'd be like, okay, I'm not alone. They see it too. It sucks. But like they're living their lives. I can move on from this, and I thought that was like, it's really helpful.
Learn perspective. Like we said, like you might already have the perspective, but it's nice to see other people have it. And for me, being around people with different disabilities has always given me the perspective where Kyle has said, like, I can't believe you do this triathlon with, just arms. You don't get to kick on the swim. You don't get to pedal a bike. And I'm like, bro, like I'm looking at you, like you can't even see where you're going, man. Like you're just like running full speed with a blindfold on. I'm like, no one would ever do that.
Derek does it sometimes.
I do.
Well, I mean, you do it for fun.
Wow.
20 strides is my PR.
Yeah.
My eyes
Before
closed.
you biffed it.
I got scared.
In a wide open field, but you
No,
never
on the
know.
path. On
But-
the
Oh,
path. On
wow,
the training
that's
path.
impressive.
But seeing those perspectives like helps change mine to where I'm like, you know what, this sucks. Like this is frustrating, but like at least I can see while I do it. And that's not a put down to Kyle. It's just like it reminds me like things could be not worse, but different in a hard way.
There were
Yeah, so I
there were-
appreciate what I do have.
Yeah,
you
there
know?
were so many times where I was, watching you guys, mess around with your prosthetics or like getting, having to change rubber on your, glue new tires onto your wheelchairs and all that. I'm like, well, yeah, I can't run outside. I can't run or bike outside all the time, but at least I don't have to deal with that kind of stuff.
What you mentioned perspective a minute ago, Howie, and I think one of the things that I'm forever changed in many ways of working with all of you, but my patience for myself and other fully able-bodied individuals is much, much less now. Much, much less of an athlete saying something's hard or they can't do something or just making excuses. And I think that resiliency is something that we've lost, to a large degree as a society, and the coping mechanisms and being able to, okay, yeah, this sucks, but I'm still capable of doing it. I can still do it, and let's get through it. And that's been something that has actually gotten me in trouble from time to time because I lose that patience of like, no, you can absolutely do that. You're just choosing not to, or you're choosing to make
another way.
Yeah, find a way, and that's something that I really, really took from working with para sports, or coming out of working with para sports for sure. Yeah.
But I think that's an important thing is that like we have this misconception of there's a right way to do something. There's a way to do something. And then it's figuring out what is the best way to do something, and then understanding that best is a finite point in time and recognizing, okay, now how can we do that one little thing a little bit better? How can we, how can we, because one of the things that so many people say is like, oh, always give your best effort on the last rep, the last piece of a workout. And something that you always told us, Derek, was give your best effort on the second to last one. And then that backed up to on your third to last one.
Or the first one.
Or the first one. Yeah. I mean, like, but it became this constant phrase of like, look, the hardest one is the second to last one because anyone can get through the last one. And it just became this refrain. And it became this thing that like, look, every workout is hard. No matter if it's an easy workout, it can still be hard to get through something. If, life is hard, life's not fair, never has been, never will be. So we all got to figure out how to deal with it. And we helped each other with sharing different perspectives, through sharing stories, through laughing together, through helping each other understand that it's okay to laugh and to enjoy, and and then knowing when it's appropriate to laugh and when it's time to pull back.
Yeah, I think if you get nothing else out of this episode of the podcast, that you just realize that you should be able to look back on the journey and really have enjoyed it. And so hopefully you'll decide every day to surround yourself with people that lift you up and put you down in the way that keeps you humble, but keeps you getting medals.
Good stuff.
And Howie's bad at biking.
And you're bad at war.
Oh,
That was awesome.
That was perfect.
that was killer. Thank you to our sponsors and partners, Dorada Training, Giddy Goat Coffee Roasters, and Tolsma Stockwell Prosthetics. If you'd like to support the show, please email theresidentTable@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram @theresidentTable.